Hello, it's great to have you back on Women of the Future. This is episode 19, and today we are taking up the subject of internal and external discipline. We found the subject to be relevant to the series because discipline is part and parcel of one's life, whether you realize it or not. So to enlighten us on the subject and in the series is Sister Denise. Thank you so much for joining us, and it is always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
The word discipline is not a subject or a term that excites one. Okay, whether a child or an adult, if you use the word discipline, people literally take a step back because it's hard to maintain any discipline. Okay, we have an attitudinal block towards the word discipline. Just like people don't actually use the word sin or hardly ever use the word sin. Tell us what discipline means to you, because you have a fresh definition of almost everything we've heard in the series, and explain to us what is a mature, successful, spiritually grounded person, and especially women, mean in this context.
Well, the problem with discipline is it's synonymous with punishment.
Yeah, I think that's the association for many people. It's almost like a Pavlovian response, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. So actually discipline means to really regulate yourself.
That is a very powerful and very realistic working definition. So it's not a question of thou shalt do this and not do that. It's not that.
No, I think we really need to get away from the injunctions, the moral injunctions and all that sort of thing. Discipline means that you set the timings of your life. It's very much to do with regularity. If a person is undisciplined, they get up whenever they feel like it, they go to bed whenever they feel like it, and so they miss the sort of the right time and the right amount of time for doing things. You know, discipline is to do with establishing a regular movement in your life, because time and breath and thought are considered valuable. So if you bring discipline into your life, it means that you make sure that you don't waste your time, breath and thought, that you use it profitably and properly. If you say, okay, I'm going to live a yogi lifestyle. A yogi lifestyle, you get up before 4 o'clock in the morning so that you can give yourself a good 45 minutes to an hour of meditation, which means that your day starts with absorption of spiritual power. And then you get yourself ready, you give yourself a period of spiritual study, so that your whole foundation of the day is you empower yourself spiritually and intellectually. And that period of time, according to the subtle understanding of what quality is associated with what time of day, before dawn time is very, very spiritually powerful. So if you do the right thing at the wrong time, it's not nearly as right as if you do the right thing at the right time. So there's this idea in India called Muhurat, and it's more or less every 2 hours the quality of time changes. So it's connected with the sort of the biological clock of nature. And these early time periods are used in the different religions, especially for the contemplatives. They will use that time to fill themselves spiritually. It's quiet, the other people are sleeping, there's less going on in the mind space. And then you come into your morning period, and if you have filled yourself with strength very early morning, then your morning, you can say your work period, you're going to get the best out of it, you see. And then you give yourself a break, lunchtime, after lunch. And then the evening time is very good for your social interaction. And then again, some meditation. We give a lot of importance to the dusk meditation, so that both ends of the day you start with meditation, you let everything quieten down, and then the later part of the day you just spend time with yourself, you look back on the day, and then you take your rest. So the discipline of a day is the template for the discipline of your life. So if you have a day that's disciplined in this way, you can basically do anything.
Sister Denise, I'd like to interject there. What do you get out of the lifestyle that you've just enunciated? Where's the profit? The reason I'm asking this question is because it appears to be a life of sacrifice. Sacrifice of sleep, sacrifice of other aspects.
Just take the word sacrifice. Sacrifice means to make sacred. So you make your time sacred, you make your thoughts sacred, you make your breath sacred. It means your whole life is filled with value. And when you do this, you fill your life with value, then you really can actually take these offerings that God wishes for His children. You can be free, you can be happy, you can be fortunate because you use everything for profit. Not in a selfish way, but in a very intelligent way. And you end up wise. You don't have regrets. You don't have a life where you're just wasting time and energy and whatnot. And what that means is if you have an idea, you have the strength, you have the staying power to actually see it through to the end, and there you get your feeling of accomplishment. So I think what you get out of it is at the end of your life you will say, I lived well, I left a good legacy for those who come after me, it's okay, I can go.
Most people do what they want, when they want, for whatever reason they want. What's wrong with that?
Well, I also do that.
What's wrong with the scenario that I just laid down?
What's wrong with it is you're under the illusion of having freedom where you really don't have that much freedom, because if you waste your time, energy, and you don't have discipline, and you do what you want, when you want, how you want, in a more hedonistic way, you end up with much less than you would otherwise, you see. So a person who has internal discipline, we didn't talk about the internal disciplines, you know, discipline of thought.
We're coming to that. Yeah.
But to discipline your mind means I choose to maintain pure, powerful, significant, meaningful thoughts. And any thought that isn't in that category, I choose to delete from sustaining it in my mind, you know. So you will be alert, you will note if there's something not right going on, and you will remove it. So the result of all of that is you have a very ordered life, a very ordered mind. This is like your foundation, and then on top of such a foundation you can build all kinds of castles, which are not castles in the air, they're grounded and they stand up.
I would like you now to take us through the internal part of it all. I know you touched on it. I'd like you to elaborate further on how one goes about doing that, because your internal world does not have any visibility or tangibility, and you're dealing with thoughts, you're dealing with attitudes, you're dealing with feelings. How do you apply discipline on those levels, and what do you discipline? What's your definition of a disciplined mind, disciplined feelings, disciplined attitudes? What is that?
I think that just going back a little bit, you cannot even begin to have inner discipline if you don't have external discipline.
So does the external come first?
The external comes first, yes.
That's curious. I would have thought it would be the other way around.
No, because, I mean, say for example, we practice vegetarian diet. You know whether or not you're eating vegetarian diet. If you are, like you slip into, you fudge it or whatever, you break your discipline. it's so much more subtle on thought. You say, okay, I'm going to have significant thoughts, and then after a while you find yourself in some totally insignificant thing. You don't even know how long you've been thinking that, you see. So definitely the physical part comes first, and then once the physical is settled, or what happens in a spiritual practice, you try and get everything going all at once, but the physical is the most tangible, so that's the visible, the obvious, the checkable. Then you start to go into the inner, the subtle, you see, because how do you feel? Like sometimes it would be said, are you happy? You have many reasons to be happy, but are you actually happy? If you're not happy, it is because certain things you have you don't value, certain resentments you haven't worked through it and let it go. So the state of mind, the feelings that you feel and so on, how you live in your inner world is very much to do with how successful you are at pinpointing where you go off track and bringing yourself back to on track. And that's all part of the discipline.
Is there any force involved in this, Sister Denise? The reason I'm asking is because it takes an extraordinary amount of strength to do what you just said. So,
well, you accumulate strength, don't you?
Okay, rhetorical question. I'll leave it there. What I want to know is to exert discipline over your mind is nowhere near ordinary.
Well, you start somewhere, you see.
And
you start wherever you start. And the thing that's going to help you is everyday practice. Because every day you impact that discipline a little bit more until it becomes natural and automatic. You know, when you want to establish a discipline, it's quite difficult because you have all kinds of resistance and other things going on and so on and so forth. But in Raj Yoga, you know, you're not going to force yourself. That's not that kind of force. But you are going to again and again bring yourself back to that discipline. And part of the spiritual practice is to take power from God. So that force applies in being able to establish the discipline.
Your relationship with yourself once you're disciplined is what?
You know, if you do something against your own principles, you feel a little bit that you've betrayed yourself, a little bit that you have failed yourself, a little bit, irritated with yourself, because you want to be able to be disciplined. And so once you set it going and you find that after some time you're able to actually control your emotions and do what you intend to do instead of always postponing to another day or whatever. People have a lot of internal habits which can get sorted out just with some personal discipline, personal hygiene, getting your emails done within a fixed amount of time. I mean, you make a decision, I will do this within this time, and if you don't do it, you're going against your own self. But if you discipline yourself, you start to be able to give yourself things to do that are doable, and you accumulating the power to actually do them, and then you're running in a very nice way.
Denise, it sounds pretty strict. I'm very well aware of what you said about what one can get out of it. That is clear. But it sounds like a very strict lifestyle. The reason I'm posing the question in this way is that some people like and want a structured lifestyle. I'm one of those. I like a structured lifestyle, which is not the same thing as a disciplined lifestyle. And then you get people who do not like structure, who wake up during the morning at some point and say, let's see where life takes me today. And they're happy being like that, or at least have temporary happiness of being that way. Should one not work in the context of one's personality, and rather than, herd yourself like a shepherd?
Well, you say, I like a structured lifestyle. To me, structured and disciplined is the same thing. You say it's not the same thing.
Okay, well, that's a matter of your definition.
Again, that's true. It's different definition. And a person who's very casual, very any old how about their life, they will not acquire the strength that comes with a disciplined, structured lifestyle.
Okay, so one of the benefits that discipline gives you is strength of character.
Yes, and not just strength of character, but just personal strength to be able to go through with everything. Because you get obstacles. If somebody is just doing everything very casually, the first obstacle comes along, they're hopeless.
Okay, so the purpose of discipline is to harness whatever you have and have it focused in a particular direction for your own good.
Yes, you harness it, you don't waste it, you increase it, you're creating fortune. The other one is losing fortune, just using it all up.
Okay, so discipline creates fortune, and lack of causes you to waste your fortune.
Yeah.
You bring in the divine in practically every single episode that we do, so I can't wait to find out how God fits into this picture.
Well, one of the things that God teaches is financial discipline.
Okay, say more.
Live within your means.
Yeah,
That's a discipline.
Sound advice that very few women follow, not because they're spendthrifts, but because of lack of finances.
I don't think it's because of lack of finances. Even if you have a very small amount, you want to make it go far, and there are many statistics that show that women are much better at this than men, and that part of it is because women have less money. You have to make it go further. But there are credit cards and hire purchase and all of this thing where coupled with advertising which says you need this and here is the means to get it, live now, pay later. And it doesn't work like that, If you live within your means, if you're economical, if you look for extending the life of the items that you have, if you only buy what you need and not just this casual buying of things that you're not going to use, all of that is personal discipline.
Is it ever okay to impose your sense of discipline on another human being? I do not mean a child, or more specifically your child, because that's part and parcel of parenting up until the child's 18. I mean on another adult. Is it ever okay to do that?
Well, people impose things on each other, no doubt, but the other one has to protect themselves from it and say, keep yourself to yourself and hands off me and I live my life how I want, because I'm an adult. But people do overstep the mark, and even that is a discipline, to not impose yourself in someone else's personal space. That's a very good discipline.
Sister Denise, in order to reach this state where you choose a disciplined lifestyle, does one have to articulate these things to themselves like the way you do? Or is it a verbal thing? Is it a behavioral thing? You're exceptionally articulate, and I'm sure there's women listening to you from all parts of the globe who understand what you are saying, but need not necessarily have formulated it in thought the way you did. So does one have to do that first before you can get to the conduct itself?
Suppose you discipline your time and you have a fixed timetable. This is something that's very particularly recommended to us in a spiritual practice. This is your basic timetable. Do this, and there are chunks of time which are for specific meditation. Do the things you have to do between those chunks of time, and make sure that you learn how to complete what you want to do within the time. That's a very good discipline.
I just want to go back to your relationship with God, one's relationship with God again, because I think it's something that women need to hear. You first establish a discipline with yourself and then set aside time for God every day. Is it a time thing that at this hour I spend time with God? Is it like a divine date?
A divine date it is.
Divine date, yes, okay.
But
Tell us more about the divine date.
You may have a divine date, but you have a lot of other things going on. But making sure that you give time to your own soul, give time to your connection with God, to accumulating the treasures that God is offering you, because if you don't take them, you miss out.
God gives to women, but it's their choice to take it or not.
Yeah, like anything. If it's a beautiful day outside and you stay inside because you didn't give importance to the fact that you need to go out there and just breathe a bit of air or something, you missed. So there are many things, inner and outer and all that, to really say, okay, these are my disciplines, your priorities. Then you become able to actually choose more freely what you want and to get a richer life, definitely.
Okay, we reached the end of today's show. Is there any thoughts that you would like to leave our ladies, the women, with?
I think what I would say is make a circle which represents 24 hours and try to calculate how much time you devote to which things in your 24-hour day. So at least you have some idea of how you spend your time. And when you see that, sometimes it might shock you how much time you spend wasting time. And you might want to change those lines in your circle. But it's a very, very good exercise to do, to get clear about what you do and how you use your valuable time.
So that is the message as far as internal and external discipline is concerned. I really like Sister Denise's definition of discipline. She used the word regulate your behavior, which is softer and more palatable for most of you, I'm sure, because like you, when I hear the word discipline, I go, which is, counterproductive. Sister Denise has very clearly articulated how one maintains an internal as well as an external discipline, and she has stated that it's necessary to have both in order to lead a balanced and structured life. Sister Denise also mentioned how one uses one's sense of discipline to invoke or to bring divine presence into your life, which was a very lovely note on which to end today's talk. So I thank Sister Denise for her time, and I thank you for yours, and I do wish you a disciplined life. Take care and goodbye.